यस रॉन्ग आंसर्स भी चलेंगे जस्ट ट्राई इट आउट यस बोलिए लाइफ इन अ मेट्रो दैट्स द राइट आंसर ग्रेट द थर्ड वन क्या मास्टर आदमी है यार तू क्या मास्टर आदमी है यार तू मास्टर आदमी एक ट्रेंड बन गया था क्योंकि मैं झूठ नहीं बोलता
और द लास्ट वन, हमारा फादर साउथ इंडियन, हमारा मदर नॉर्थ इंडियन, इसलिए हम कंप्लीटली इंडियन. Does anyone remember where this is from?
और मे बी द कैरेक्टर्स नेम
हमारा फादर साउथ इंडियन, हमारा मदर नॉर्थ इंडियन, इसलिए हम कंप्लीटली इंडियन.
फ्रॉम द कैरेक्टर एंड द फिल्म मुथुस्वामी यस और कहीं ना कहीं ये जो कैरेक्टर्स हैं ये जो डायलॉग्स हैं और जिस तरीके से डायलॉग्स डिलीवर किए गए थे उन कलाकारों द्वारा वो सालों सालों से हमारे जहन में हमारे दिल में बसे हुए हैं और आज ये खास सेशन उन्हीं कलाकारों को याद करने के लिए है जिनके डायलॉग्स जिनकी अदाकारी कभी भी मरती नहीं हमेशा इस ज़माने में हमारे सामने रहती है
And therefore, the next session for the day here at Abhirang is titled Legends Never Die, Eternal Greats, Irfan Khan and Satish Kaushik, where we'll have Mr. Mayank Shekhar in conversation with Dr. Neelkamal Kapoor and and Miss Sathya Saran. Can we please have you all on the stage? Let's welcome them with a round of applause, please. Mr. Mayank Shekhar is an Indian film critic, journalist, and author. His reviews appear on his website, thew14.com.
Well updated show for sure.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayank Shekhar is an Indian film critic, a journalist, and an author. Can we please welcome him with a round of applause, everyone? Dr. Neelkamal Kapoor is currently a professor and head Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at AIIMS Bhopal, an eminent pathologist with almost 40 years of work experience. She is a recipient of various national and international awards and fellowships. She also happens to be a prolific writer who writes both in Hindi and English on a wide range of subjects. She has written and published books on pathology, parenting, a story collection, and also curates columns for major newspapers on healthcare issues. We welcome you, ma'am.
And as the third guest, we're delighted to have Miss Sathya Saranji. She is a guest lecturer at NIFT, where she teaches fashion journalism. She has written a wide variety of books, including the acclaimed biographical books on Guru Dutt Ji, S.D. Burmanji, Jagjit Singh Ji, and Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia. She also has a book of short stories titled The Dark Side, and also has a collection of editorials titled From Me to You. And therefore, now over from me to you. Thank you so much for being there.
Well done. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to all of you. And I'm sure all of you who are sitting here, including that includes us, are film buffs. That's why you are here. And our film industry lost two great people in 2023. Although, as Siddharth said, they will always be there in our hearts and in our minds. But there's a big but because in future we will not see any more of them. Irfan, uh, what a spectrum of work he's left behind. Bollywood, Hollywood, other movie industries, and amazing repertoire, as well as being an entertainer or a, more commercial films as they are called, and also very serious critic acclaimed films also. And he was the one who could manage to marry both of them. And सतीश कौशिक का क्या कहना. सतीश कौशिक एक्टर थे, शानदार एक्टर थे, उसके अलावा राइटर थे, प्रोड्यूसर थे, यानी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में जो कुछ भी किया जा सकता था वो सब कर रहे थे. और उसके अलावा एक बहुत एस्ट्यूट अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ फिल्म्स उनके पास थी. मैं ये नहीं कह सकती कि मैं कभी इन दोनों से मिली है, मैंने बातचीत करी, बट आई हैव एक्सेलेंट पैनलिस्ट हियर, मिस्टर मयंक शेखर एंड सत्या जी, who know him at a a journalistic personal level, if I can say that. So my first curiosity in my mind would be to ask Mayank ji that when you met Irfan many times, what was your impression overall of his personality?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely in love with this amazing city, easily India's best state capital, uh, and completely deserves a literature festival of this nature. Also, we barely discuss actors after they're no more.
Yeah.
We love to have them around in these same festival gatherings for the footfalls and the selfies, but when they're not there, we barely discuss them. So I'm glad we're able to do this. To answer your question, ma'am, I think one of the things that did not come out soon after Irfan's death was how playful he was as an individual.
Oh.
There was something about him and his performances that lent a certain aura of seriousness, gambhir, serious actor. But actually, the person I knew was a chiller, an absolute chiller with a roving eye, a good drinker, and a person with a lot of opinions on anything that's happening around him. Always surrounded by friends. So there is that side of Irfan. That I think you do see in a couple of films, like say Karwan, or you see a film like Dil Kabaddi. You see that side of Irfan, but for better or worse, he got uh, into that mold of someone who understands his craft, and those are things that rightly got spoken about as against this aspect of his personality. So the person I knew over the years as a journalist, of course, also I could say as more than an acquaintance, certainly close to a friend, was someone deeply insecure, having great gossip sessions, you know bitching the hell out of the people around him, making fun of stuff that's happening around him. All those things that I think we do not accept about great people.
Yeah.
For some reason, we give them so much greatness that we don't see the human side of them. I think he was, joyously human.
Okay.
And that's what I really loved about him.
I was just going to say that uh, if you go through his interviews in print or electronic, he was very prolific. Actually, he talked to anyone and everyone, as you said, and with full force and in full form. So after certain questions, he would come out to be a celebrity type, answers. After certain questions, he would be an intense artist, a creative person, and at times star also.
Yeah, I mean, barely do you come across, especially now, I think we do the most boring Bollywood interviews for multiple reasons. One of it is, of course, the PR industry that's involved. The second is that everyone, especially since the death of Sushant Singh Rajput and all that happened thereafter, everyone's become way too cautious. So they barely speak their mind. He wasn't that guy. Like, I distinctly remember, for instance, when this is after Slumdog Millionaire, he was taking the piss out of Anil Kapoor. And this for an interview with a news channel. So it's all on the record where he's completely embarrassed by how Anil Kapoor is behaving with all these. I mean, making fun. There was no malice here. He could be himself. I distinctly remember. I think after this is roughly around the time when he did the film with Shah Rukh Khan, Billo, Billu,
Billu Barber.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
where he felt like Shah Rukh made two films, one with him in it and the other and
Yes.
it's like people didn't like either film. Now these are things that you might say over and off the record. I don't think he cared too much for on record, off record, and that makes him a great subject for a journalist to be around. You
Yes.
know that you'll get your few quotes for sure. He'll give you that, but of course you'll. But that's not what you're going in for. There was a thinking actor there. There were. I don't think I'd met at least at that time a bigger film buff than him in terms of his range of the movies that he loved. I mean, he introduced me to Fatih Akin before Fatih Akin became the great director, the Turkish-German director that he became. So he would follow people at the very early phases of their careers, like Michael Winterbottom. He worked with Michael Winterbottom with A Mighty Heart, if you guys have seen this fantastic film on Daniel Pearl's killing. But he knew Michael Winterbottom from way before. I mean, that one of the things that he was pissed off about with Anil Kapoor, he was taking the piss out of him, was that he didn't even know who Danny Boyle was before he signed up for that film. So he was a genuine. So there was a person looking around the world. He saw himself beyond a Bombay film actor. He certainly saw himself as a global actor, and that's really where he reached towards the end of his career.
Yeah. Satyaji, would you like to add something to your
Yeah,
impression?
I didn't have too many interactions because I'm not really in the film writing space. I would write a review or two or review a book or two. But from what I have seen of him or read about him, I think what you say about him being a very serious cinema person is true. He was passionate about cinema. He read up about it. He was aware of it. He watched all kinds of films. And what I realized was his thirst to do unusual roles, to do roles that he could get his teeth into. And I have a personal story there that I once got a call from his office saying, Irfan Saab, aapse milna chahte hain. So I thought for an interview or something for, I was not in Femina, I was with DNA at that time. And I said, हाँ किस बात के लिए? तो he says, वो आपकी गुरुदत्त की book के बारे में बात करना चाहते हैं. So I went and met him. I met him at the Marriott. I went with one of my colleagues because I thought maybe interview hai, photo hai, kya malum nahi. So when I went there, he says, I've read your book and I think we can make it into a movie.
Oh, wow.
So I said, हाँ बहुत अच्छा. I was like over the moon. I mean,
Yes.
I said, ठीक है. तो आप क्या करना चाहेंगे? He said, मैं तो गुरुदत्त. I said, Irfan Saab, when I was writing this book and somebody suggested that it could make a movie, the first person who came to my mind as Abrar Alvi Sahab was you. Of course, it was just a passing thought. I never thought it would ever come to this. So he says, क्यों? I said, actual hero of the book तो गुरुदत्त नहीं है, Abrar Sahab है. It is Abrar Alvi's journey.
Yes.
Gurudat, it is by reflection.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the book.
Yeah.
So he said, हाँ वो भी बात है. I said, no, because your personality matches Abrar Sahab. Immediately agreed. He says, ठीक है, मैं देखता हूँ क्या कर सकते हैं. Of course, the book didn't happen because the script writer didn't know what to do with it. He says, मैं script writer ने मना कर दिया. तो I said, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. But this was my, and I saw when I met him, he had this brooding quality and he mumbled. I said, why does he mumble in real life? He's so good on screen. He was like talking like this to me under his breath, I said, ye kya hai? Is he shy or is he what? But that was my brush with him. And I was really, I mean, it's very seldom that a writer is approached by someone who thinks there's a role for him in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something brilliant.
Absolutely. And he went through the book. They do have very haphazard and very crazy schedules, as I've
No, I
heard.
think he tended to do that. I think even these are stories that came out after his passing away. For instance, he reached out to, say, Varun Grover and asked him to research on the making of Mughal Azam because he wanted to play K. Asif. I think one needs to understand Irfan also in the context of the industry that he belonged to. My submission is that until the West found him, Bombay film industry itself didn't know what to do with him. Absolutely nothing. So if you see the first 15 years of Irfan's life in terms of career, he was doing odd jobs on television shows like he was big. I mean, he was loved by people who saw him in Chandrakanta or Banegi Apni Baat. He also directed episodes of Banegi Apni Baat, star bestsellers. This is the kind of stuff that he was doing until all the way in 2001. He'd been spent 15 years already.
Yes.
In 2001, Asif Kapadia, who is one of the world's top documentary filmmakers now, he's made Emmy on Amy Winehouse, has made on Senna, on Ayrton Senna, this fantastic documentary on Diego Maradona. He made a film called Warrior in 2001. It was a British film, and he starred and he took Irfan as Warrior. That is when the West noticed him. And that is when the Bombay film industry noticed him. So then after you see Hasil, which is 2003, 17 years is spent in Bombay already, right? Nobody quite knows much about Irfan until then. Then Vishal Bharadwaj sees Hasil before its release and casts him for Maqbool, where he was looking for Kamal Hassan instead, all through. So, I mean, all of that is happening at a point when he has decided to quit films.
Yes.
He had decided to quit acting altogether because there was no space for him. So someone who's been through that tries to create his own space all the time.
Yeah.
Actors like Irfan or a Manoj, they go to a writer and tell the writer to write the script. They go to a director, ask them to direct that film, go even looking for funding for that film, because that is how they will find work for themselves. That is truly satisfying for them. That is
Yeah.
creatively satisfying for them. And so in that sense, there are lots of stories of Irfan genuinely creating projects for himself, because
Okay.
who else would have?
If you can recall one or two of them, that would be very interesting because it never comes out in what we read or what we see.
No, I mean,
Like I heard, we heard Sathya telling that this Gurudat book, it might have come out on celluloid with if the scriptwriter hadn't failed. So do you recall something
no,
else
I
which?
mean the point. No, it wouldn't necessarily be. Oh, this person asked that. Irfan asked that person to write a script. It doesn't work. It wouldn't necessarily be that,
Okay.
right? But it would certainly be where he's constantly scoping out. Where does a Pan Singh Tomar come from?
Yeah.
It comes from Irfan first,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And of course you need also an ecosystem around you to make that. So then there is a Tigmanshu Dhulia who makes it. Even when that movie, by the way, when that movie came out in 2012, if I'm not mistaken with the year, for 4 years that movie was in the can,
Yeah.
because they didn't know what the hell to do with Pan Singh Tomar, because it doesn't have that proper movie star to get that opening in a theater and those opening numbers and stuff. They didn't do anything with that film until they didn't have a choice, so UTV released it.
Yeah.
And it became what it did.
What it became,
Easily, I think his greatest performance. Although there can be a debate on his greatest performance. There's so many of them.
I heard in one of the interviews of Irfan, and somebody was talking about him, and he said ki Irfan has always maintained, whether is it truthful or not, I don't know, that he actually did not come out, you know, during his growing up years to be an actor, but he thought that this is the place I should go, and then he cultivated all of it.
Yeah, so I think it's also essential to place him in the timeline of the film industry, right? Irfan decided to become an actor looking at the parallel cinema movement
Yeah.
that took place primarily late 70s onwards till, and it died in the late 80s, which is when he decided to become an actor. So his early works would be with Shyam Benegal, where he does Bharate Khoj, would be Drishti with Govind Nilani, would be if I'm not mistaken, Kamla Ki Maut, which
Yes,
is
it was
Basu
Yeah,
Chatterjee's.
yeah.
But these are directors. I mean, of course, I mean, Shyam Benegal is still making movies, and he's 88 and he's just delivered a fantastic film on Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I mean, but that, with the exception of Shyam Benegal, all the other directors in the cinema movement, the parallel cinema movement itself, with the decline of eventual decline of NFDC, because they didn't have, after 91 reforms, NFDC decided to not fund films
Yeah.
in a way that they used to in the 80s, because they really they pioneered that movement. So NFDC died, a lot of these directors became old, so that scene completely, fizzled out.
Yeah.
And he had come hoping to join that scene, right? Which is why you see that gap, the first decade gap, because hey, that cinema doesn't exist.
Right.
The reason why I went to NSD was to participate in those
Yeah.
films, and that cinema did not exist.
And
So-
perhaps that's why the TV work, which is quite substantial and
Yes.
much loved,
Yes.
that didn't satisfy him.
No, it cannot be. It's grunt work. Television has always, the network television has always been grunt work. You get up in the morning, like any other clerk in a company, you go, you do your shit, you come back.
Yeah.
There is, your lines are given to you on the set. Because there is just so many episodes to do. Who's going to sit in, I mean, of course, OTT happened later, right? So it's in 2012, and he reckoned, I think he's right. He felt that there was a piece in the New York Times by Catherine Shattock, if I'm not mistaken with the byline, who wrote a piece on if America is ready for Irfan as a lead actor
Oh, wow.
in the New York Times. That's the first time that the West, in terms of the art house West, they saw the man behind the roles. And this is around the time that he had done In Treatment, which is a series for HBO, which is huge
yeah.
for America at the time. All this is pre-Netflix, of course. All this is pre-OTT. Of course, it's you're gonna have brown people as leading men and women now, because the same Netflix is being watched by lots of Indians as well. So you will have an Alia Bhatt as a lead, as you see, alongside Gal Gadot. But that was not the case in 2012, right? So that's the first time he felt that Hollywood started taking him a little seriously. Because In Treatment had come out, then this is right before the release of The Amazing Spider-Man,
Yeah.
where he was the antagonist, and Life of Pi was just being made, and that's Ang Lee. So I mean, that's like A level, and plus now there is talk of whether, and he's himself saying in that piece that obviously America is not ready for a, Indian lead man.
Yeah.
And Ang Lee is saying maybe he'll be the first one to do it for us. By us, he means Asia, right? So those are the things that were happening, and that is why I think we're discussing him in ways that we don't discuss as many actors in the same. Because he was at the peak when he just disappeared. It's like a kite being cut off. It's like mid-flight someone crashes. And what a life he was going to have
Yes.
ahead. And it's tragic, but then I guess such is life. I mean,
Yeah.
No,
or
but
such is
in
death.
fact, director after director has gone on record saying we can't imagine what we are going to do. How are we going to manage without Irrfan? Now it's as if
Yes.
Irrfan is the pole on which the
Yeah,
tent of
yeah.
Bollywood
Yes.
rests.
Right.
Ma'am, because you asked me that question and I hadn't, like for instance, in terms of scoping out work, right? This guy takes a stand-up comedian from AIB, Khamba, Simran Khamba, picks him up from nowhere, decides to give him a series to do. It's a you direct it, and it's a satire on Indian government.
Government.
And obviously it can't be released anymore. But they made the whole series, and he bet on a boy. He bet on a kid from All India Bakchod. For fuck's sake, you know what I mean? Like that is the level at which he would go to genuinely find talent and surround himself with it. I don't think there are too many actors who would bet. Or if you take an example of Kissa, for instance,
Yes.
Anup Singh. Anup Singh is like beyond art house. I mean, he can make non sequitur films where from start to end it may not even make sense to you because it's not even woven together in that
Yes.
sense. So that's like it's in the surreal space. And Irfan at the peak of his career is making a film with Anup Singh. So
Yes.
you can tell that this guy genuinely is there for the art.
No,
And
eats,
everything
lives,
else
thinks.
is incidental.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that the world could see it while he was alive, and literally the world could see it,
Could see
and not just India in that sense.
Would you like to add something more, Satyaji?
I was chatting with Meeta Vashisht, who's a friend of mine, and we were just at the Bangalore Lit Fest together and killing time, and Irrfan ki baat nikal aayi. So she started talking about her NSD days when they were together, and she said he was always in a different zone, and we didn't know whether he was being serious or whether he was being funny or whether he was being reclusive. But he would occupy all these spaces at the same time, and he would lean heavily on his girlfriend, who later became his wife, of course, and Chutapa, who would normally be the one who would be telling him what to do. So he was letting himself get into a place where he was not really comfortable through her.
Yeah.
And look how comfortable he became later.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it was as if he owned the space.
Yes, absolutely. And probably that also reflected in his acting or his roles. His character always found a nodal or a central moral zone, even when he was not playing or he was playing gray roles. But still, there was so much of conviction in that grayness that as an audience, I just say I'm a simple audience, and many of you like me, we would somehow hang on to that character. So, do you have something to elaborate on that? That how he did it? I mean, did he work very hard on maybe every comma, full stop, crossing the T's, I's, or he was very spontaneous? Any idea about that?
Oh, okay. No,
Anyone.
so I think from based on my conversations with him over those years, my sense is that he taught himself film acting. He was from the theater background.
yeah.
Like, I'm Bhopal, for instance, is a city of theater actors.
Yeah.
And there is a certain kind of theater that happens in Bhopal which will not work as film. Somewhere at some point he mastered the craft of less is more. the fact that he doesn't need to move his face too much.
Yes.
The fact that he can convey so much with his eyes.
Yeah.
And because that is what a film camera is. It really gets to you here. So if you are acting, quote unquote acting, it will show.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's the toughest to be simple.
Yeah.
And I think he got that, and he said that he'd worked on it. It didn't happen to him automatically. He felt he was too theatrical initially in his career because of his stage background. But he taught himself film acting. So by the time you see him, and this is 2001 onwards, he's already been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing is actually the fully chiseled piece of sculpture as he
Yes.
wanted. I think the other thing that is very interesting I find from his performances is his infectious energy. So you would see that when he's in a film, the ones around him are killing it as well.
Yes.
And that is the mark of a great actor, isn't it? That fact that you are seeking a response. I don't think Deepika Padukone can pull off that role in Piku with anyone but Irfan.
But Irfan.
Because
yes.
she can play with those eyes in the same way that he is. You have a real like actor next to her, it's not going to work.
Yes.
I
Right?
think that was a lack of insecurity in him, which came
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
where he felt, I don't have to take away from the other person
Yeah.
to shine.
Yeah.
If they shine, I shine further.
Absolutely.
And if lifts the movie, I think there, because again his commitment to cinema, he wanted the movie itself to
Yeah.
to be at a place.
Yeah, but because acting is so much of a reaction also,
Right.
Sathya. So
Yeah.
I mean, you will only be able to react if the first act is
But if you're hamming it, you don't want a
exactly.
reaction.
So I can't. So I can't see Deepika pulling off that role if Irfan is not there. I can't see, for instance, a Deepak Dobriyal pulling off that mad role in English medium,
medium, yeah,
right?
yeah.
If Irfan is not there, because he's reacting equally, and of course, I mean, I think Namesake. Again, we can keep debating which is the
Yeah,
best
which
format.
one is
I
the
think
best.
Namesake would be the finest.
I
that
want
we've
to
seen.
bring in a point at this point.
Yeah.
We're talking of Irfan, but there is another actor who comes to mind when you talk of all these theatre background, phoning into cinema, being effortless. Sanjeev Kumar.
Yes.
I think, he took on where Sanjeev Kumar left
Left
off,
off.
but started much lower than Sanjeev did. Right.
I mean, Sanjeev Kumar also had his struggles, but as I think yeah, we started a little late. But anyways, I think we can encroach on time a little bit. Okay. Huh.
Yes.
To keep it,
Yeah.
do another session. Act.
No. I have something else. Yeah.
Acha, acha.
Satish
Okay.
Kaushik is the other person.
Satish
You forgot
Kaushik,
about him
yes.
altogether.
Yeah. We actually need to, not need to, it's imperative that we talk about such an amazing person who, again, as an ordinary film goer, you don't expect, a person looking like him in this world, and especially in the Maya Nagari of physical attributes, to so deeply and remembered as if some person of our family has gone away from this world.
True. I mean, firstly, I think we're all ordinary film goers. That is the nature of that medium. It's
Yeah.
a very emotional medium. You can't intellectualize it beyond a point. It has to hit you in some ways, and so every film goer is ordinary and should well be. On the larger point about celebrity deaths, I think I was thinking about it before coming into
Yeah.
this session. And what is it about a celebrity that really like sort of moves us in ways that I think the first bit is that there are people, because I'm a journalist and I do this for a living. I mean almost a full-time obituary writer almost during the pandemic, and the number of
Yeah,
obituaries
yeah.
I've written is incredible. Like
Yeah.
because you type like say if I'm writing a report, so I'll write report. If I'm writing a column, I write column. If I'm writing obituary, I write obit. So the whole thing
Will drop
flips
down.
down, and I'm like, oh my god, it's crazy. The 17th one I'm writing, and that's the number of deaths, of course, we saw during the pandemic. And one is, of course, you get to hear about someone dying, and it's like you heard about some distant relatives. Oh, he's no more, right? And that happens with a lot. Happens with a lot of people who you knew at a certain point in time,
Yeah.
where you're growing up. You hear about their death, and it feels like a part of you has died because a part of your childhood was that person. You grew up watching their movies, or consuming their work,
Yes.
listening to the music. The third, of course, is the fact that when you hear about someone's death, it makes you realize your own mortality.
Yes.
You know, like, oh, he is no more. You know, he's probably as old as you were, and he's no more. I think all of those things happen with celebrity deaths in a way that feel like someone in your family died.
Also, because you know you're not going to see them on screen anymore beyond what you've already seen, and you want to
Yes.
see more. You realize that these people were on a trajectory that
Yes. So
would
that
give
is what is different about, say, Satish Kaushik's death, Irfan's death. Right the day before that was um, Rishi Kapoor's death.
Yes.
These were people who were right there. You were looking forward to their work. When Beckenbauer died, you know, we don't remember when we saw
Yeah,
Beckenbauer play
yeah,
football.
yeah.
This happens a lot with sports people because
Yeah.
they peak in their 20s, 30s, and then they're just memories forever until they're no more, and then an obituary comes, which is when they get resurrected. Okay, we learned, oh, he's no more now. We're reading about his life. We hadn't read about his life for 40 years before that because that's how sports functions. So in this case as well, I mean, here is this guy, Satish Kaushik, right? I mean, he'd been around for 40 plus years and he was still making films.
Films.
He had just directed a film that, and his point to me was that he wants to make a film that is of today.
Yeah.
So he may have had his David Dhawan phase and all those Govinda phase, but when he's, and even as a director, like movies like Tere Naam and all, like very hardcore commercial pot boilers. He gave, you know, the first hit of Kareena Kapoor was by him, Mujhe Kuch Kehna Hai, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, he's done all those things, but before he died, he made a movie called Kagas,
Yes.
which is about a man with Pankaj Tripathi in
Pankaj
it,
Tripathi.
about a man who has to prove that he's alive. So there you see a person who is genuinely of that day.
Yes.
And when he goes away, you feel worse because you know he was there. I mean, he wanted to live. But I think one of the things about Satish Kaushik that isn't understood enough, or at least not widely spoken about, and I speak purely from the film industry perspective, is he was Bombay's greatest assistant director.
Okay.
Right? He was the only one
Satya ji.
that Javed Akhtar and Boni Kapoor would go to their house and literally beg him to be an assistant director.
Wow.
No assistant directors had
That
directors
kind of-
come and beg, and writers come and beg, and that was for Mr. India.
Wow. That is, yeah.
Because he didn't want to direct. He wanted to direct his own film. He didn't want to. Because he was such a great hand on the set that people wanted to work with him, and it started with him assisting on Masoom. And he literally, you know, went after Shekhar Kapoor, once he realized that this guy is at the airport, he rushed to the airport, he met Shekhar Kapoor, he said, I want to assist you. And Shekhar Kapoor tells him that, no, I already have an assistant. Rajkumar Santoshi is joining me anyway. This is obviously before Rajkumar
Before.
Santoshi became what
The
he,
Rajkumar
what he- the
Santoshi.
Rajkumar Santoshi, and said, I can't. So, and his English was very poor. So he told Shekhar Kapoor that you will miss working with me. But he meant to say, I will miss working with you. And so Shekhar was quite intrigued by that comment and said, okay, join me. so that's how he gets into that whole AD phase. And it's an interesting phenomenon. AD is both a verb and an adjective in the movie industry. You're ADing somewhere, right? Which could be a job from a spot boy to anything. You're just an AD. Most of them don't become directors because it's more a producer's job. It comes to the production department actually, the AD's job,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So if you see like the greatest movies, let's say Sholay, if you see the AD list, none of them actually became directors. So it's not assistant director in the sense the next job is the director's, but he did, of course. So from there he worked in Masoom. From there he became an AD on Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, where he was also the dialogue writer in that film. So that famous Mahabharat scene is him.
Yes.
Is him. It's his
It's
idea,
totally him.
right? So and of course he played a role. He played Ashok in that film in Jaane Bhi Do Yaro. And then he assists on Mr. India, right? So
Yes.
that's the whole decade for him. 82 is Masoom, 83 is Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, 89 is Mr. India, right? And if you look back at the 80s, if you were to pick three greatest movies that came out from Bombay in the 80s, it would be Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, Masoom, and Mr. India. And he was part of all three.
All three of them.
So,
All
I mean, he held a lot of history within himself. We treat him as that jumbo or whatever roles calendar and all those roles that he has played. But there was a complete workhorse
Yes.
that people loved him for, you know, which is fascinating.
And he understood, he could catch the nubs of the average audience because he was so proud of this fact कि मैं गली नाई वाला करोल बाग का रहने वाला हूँ,
Yeah.
महेंद्रगढ़ हरियाणा में पैदा हुआ. He would, मैं कहीं भी आप उसका पढ़िए सुनिए, कहीं ना कहीं ये महेंद्रगढ़ भी आ जाता है, गली नाई वाला और करोल बाग भी आ जाता है.
Yeah, and he had some fascinating stories from growing up. I actually spoke to him about 6 months before he passed away. We had a long conversation, and then he called me up the next day because he just went on and on. So he said, "Can you help me write my biography?" I'm like, you know, we'll see, right? I didn't know that he was going to be no more. I mean, I would have done something about it
Yes.
right then because he just had some crazy stories to tell
Yes.
from the life that he'd led, and it's just someone who comes to Bombay. He's a quintessential Bombay dream. He's a quintessential Bombay dream, and one of the beautiful things I'll never forget about something he said about that city. Um, is that if you are a happy person, a jovial person, you're good company, your evenings are sorted, somebody the other will give you meal and daru, khana, you're sorted. And that is how you survive, and that is how he survived. And there's not one human being you will meet in all of that city who's come in contact with him who doesn't have the most amazing thing because he's just a happy guy. And there's so much to learn from that, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm going to take 2 minutes more to tell you. Talking of ADs, I AD'd for Satish Kaushik.
How cool is that?
Yes.
How cool is that?
Right in the beginning, when he was struggling, he had just finished Mr. India and he was trying to find his feet. We did a series called Sara Jahan Hamara, which I wrote with him.
Okay.
And then when we went to shoot, my colleague Sohela was starring in it, Shekhar's sister.
Yeah.
So I went along with her and I said, as the writer, I have to be there. And then he said, थोड़ा set पे भी काम कर लो.
अच्छा.
So I was continuity girl.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Great.
It's a tough job, huh?
Tough job.
Tough job.
Tough job with Satish Kaushik.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yes, and then रात को बहुत ठंड लगी. We were shooting till 3. बहुत ठंड लगी तो मैं कंबल ओढ़ के बैठ गई because there was nothing warm.
Yeah.
So next morning I got fired. He says कंबल ओढ़ के कोई set पे बैठता है? तमीज नहीं है तुम्हें set की? I was editor at that time.
Yes.
No less.
Oh, shit, seriously. Wow.
Great. I think although we are not much time is left, but any questions from audience?
यस हम तो और किससे सुनना चाहते हैं बट मेरे ख्याल से कुछ सवाल हम ऑडियंस में से भी ले सकते हैं. अगर पीछे से एक हाथ खड़ा हुआ है वहाँ पे माइक पहुँचा दीजिए. इफ़ यू हैव अ क्वेश्चन प्लीज रेज योर हैंड सो दैट आई कैन गाइड आवर वॉलंटियर्स की कहाँ पे. यस प्लीज.
I'm just going to quote Irrfan sir. I suppose in the end the whole act of life becomes an act of letting go. So I wanted to ask if you could say something or maybe ask him one question to help us let go. What would that be? Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat that question? I didn't understand it.
Could, can you hear me?
या इट्स
Yeah,
वर्किंग.
Yeah. If you could say something or ask him something, what would you, if he was still alive today and you knew that was going to be your last time talking to him?
Oh,
Okay. As an
Oh.
interviewer.
wow.
That's a philosophical question.
It is. It is. it
And a
is.
tough one.
Tough one indeed.
Yeah. I wish I could answer this question. You know, I have a feeling I'd put a foot in my mouth right now if I say something. So, but I can totally imagine a very, very long conversation on multiple things because people don't speak so much anymore, whether to do with religion, whether to do with politics. He was a thinking man, and we need those people in these times. And he was very much that person while he was alive. I think he would be more than an actor in such times that we're going through. I would have loved to have the conversation on those aspects of public life that is beyond acting and something that we never did, but that's beyond acting, beyond cinema, beyond performance, about society, about culture, about religion, about politics. That's what the last interview would have been.
Any other questions? अगर कोई सवाल नहीं है तो मैं थोड़ी लिबर्टी लूँगा. मेरे मन में एक सवाल था सर कि जैसे हम जब देख रहे हैं जिन हीरोज़ की हम अभी बात कर रहे हैं, जिन थिएटर आर्टिस्ट की 90s 80s के दशक में थे और अभी जाके वायरल हो रहे हैं, जैसे मनोज बाजपेयी साहब हैं या सौरभ शुक्ला साहब हैं, और उस समय माना जाता था कि जो एक्टर या हीरो है वो पूरे इंडिया में फेमस होगा और बाकी आसपास के हो जाएंगे कभी ना कभी. अभी क्योंकि OTT आ गया है और अभी आई थिंक ऑडियंस का टेस्ट चेंज हुआ है कि सिर्फ हीरो या सिर्फ एक्ट्रेस को अप्रिशिएट करने की जगह वो सपोर्टिंग कास्ट को भी अप्रिशिएट करते हैं. सो डू यू थिंक देयर हैज़ बिन दिस behavioral change in the audiences to not just promote the hero and heroine, actor and actress of the film, the main leads, but also the supporting cast?
Absolutely. I think one of the problems with actors has a perennial problem with actors has been the theatrical distribution system. कि आप कोई पैसे लगा रहा है, उसको तो पता भी नहीं है कि फिल्म कैसे बनाते हैं, उसको पता भी नहीं कि फिल्म कैसे बनेगी. वो स्क्रिप्ट देख रहा है, ठीक है जो भी है, बट इफ यू कैन गारंटी हिम समथिंग कि मैं अगर 100 रुपये लगा रहा हूँ तो मुझे कम से कम 80 तो वापस आ जाए. So the star system ensured that. There is a guarantee in the star system, which is only for the fact कि लोग सलमान खान की फिल्म देखना चाहते हैं. वो टाइगर 3 वो लोग बोल रहे हैं कि उतना बिजनेस नहीं किया, बट उतना भी बिजनेस किया तो 500 करोड़ किया है यार, राइट? एंड हम सबको पसंद आएगी if you all go to watch Merry Christmas, right? Which doesn't have Salman Khan in it, but it's a way better film. But उसका पहले दिन का बिजनेस 2 करोड़ है. And that is a reality, right? OTT आने से वो reality बदली. So if you take a look at say even some of the great films of that time of 2000 pre-OTT, I think Gangs of Wasseypur would qualify as one of the best films pre-OTT, right? उसमें से सारे लोग आए, वहीं से आए हैं सब. पंकज त्रिपाठी भी वहीं से आए हैं. हाँ, राजकुमार राव भी वहीं से आए हैं. नवाज तो उसमें हीरो ही थे, etc. etc. It's like a जयदीप अलावत भी वहीं से आए, right? बट इन सब का कुछ भी नहीं हुआ. वो फिल्म हिट भले ही हुई होगी, इन सब का कुछ भी नहीं हुआ. इट्स ओनली व्हेन पंकज त्रिपाठी डज अ मिर्जापुर that he becomes a household name. So it's all happened because of this fantastic revolution called, which is not film, but which is not TV. It is somewhere in between. It has the qualities of film in terms of production qualities of film. So आपको लग रहा है कि आप फिल्म ही देख रहे हैं, तो वो आपको हीरो ही लग रहा है वो. वो टीवी का कलाकार नहीं लग रहा आपको. वो you know वो क्योंकि सास भाई का हीरो नहीं लग रहा, वो फिल्म का हीरो लग रहा है, और ये actually television है. So that and I think Irrfan would have flourished even more in these times. Flourished even more because आपको वो सवाल पूछने की जरूरत नहीं है कि can you become can Hollywood afford an Indian lead? You don't need to ask that question anymore because there's no Hollywood anymore. I can watch a Korean film in the same way that you watch an Indonesian film and Money Heist तो Spanish है, सब देख रहे हैं ना Money Heist को. He would have been right in the center of these times. It's well, it is what it is.
So true, so true. And just to add, bring back one thing from your interview that you said that in a film, actor has a lot of time to work upon himself and everything. So the OTT fare also provides that. It is
Absolutely.
not a jiffy kind of thing कि भाई आइए और ये लीजिए 4 लाइनें बोलिए.
बिल्कुल, प्रॉपर बाइबल है, पूरे शो का बाइबल है, पूरी स्क्रिप्टिंग हुई है, काफी पैसे खर्च हो रहे हैं. इट्स नॉट टीवी. काम चलाओ नहीं है.
लेकिन आप टीवी में एक सब्सक्रिप्शन दे करके देख सकते हैं. So for a viewer also it has become very easy rather than going to a mall and with the paraphernalia
also,
to watch so many things.
The quality of performance changes when it becomes up close. We are literally watching shows like we used to read novels.
Yes.
And मैं तो सब कुछ cell phone पे ही देखता हूँ. And my friends hate me for saying this, but the fact is it is the best quality. Your sound is here. The best eye distance that you need is 2.5 times of the screen. वहाँ पे सबसे अच्छा आपको प्रोजेक्शन मिलता है. तो 2.5 times ऑफ द स्क्रीन आप हैं, साउंड आपका यहाँ पे है, इतने क्लोजली देख रहे हैं, देन आपको वो लाउड परफॉर्मेंस की जरूरत नहीं है. सो इट चेंजेस द क्वालिटी ऑफ परफॉर्मेंस एज अ रिजल्ट. सो वो सलमान खान बनने की जरूरत नहीं, वो आपको थिएटर में बनने की जरूरत है, बिकॉज यू आर जस्ट वॉचिंग लाइक अ ट्राइबल एक्सपीरियंस. सो दिस इज लाइक लिटरली बिकम सो क्लोज एंड सो इंटिमेट दैट यू आर एंगेजिंग विद द स्टोरी द वे we engage with novels once upon a time.
It's like educating the audience without wanting to educate them.
Yes. Without being preachy, you are telling. Yeah.
Amazing. On that wonderful note, we'll bring this discussion to an end. A round of applause, everybody, for such a wonderful discussion. And as Sathya ji mentioned while quoting Irrfan, that if they shine, I'll shine further. And that's such a beautiful thing. Of course, I'm sure these stars are going to shine further. And thank you so much for being wonderful discussants for this session. I'd like to invite Niharika ji on stage on behalf of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival. She's the founder member of Society for Culture and Environment. I'll be requesting her to come on to the stage and felicitate our guests for this session with a special memento as a token of love and respect on behalf of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival. The memento that you see is the mascot of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival 2024, developed by the senior Gond artist Sri Ram Singh Ji. It reflects a motif rooted in timeless stories. With vibrant strokes, Ram Singh Ji brings life, swaying trees and mythical forms, echoing the melodies of Banadev, the revered musical instrument of Pardhan Gonds. Thank you so much, everybody, for such a wonderful discussion. And
And who better than Niharika